1. Obama rejects Keystone Pipeline project. This topic is important under General Studies Paper 2. International Relations. Why recently in news? U.S. President Barack Obama on Friday announced that he had rejected the request from a Canadian company to build the Keystone XL oil pipeline, ending a 7-year review that had become a flashpoint in the debate over his climate policies. The move was made ahead of a major UN summit meeting on climate change to be held in Paris in December, when the U.S. president hopes to help broker a historic agreement committing the world's nations to enacting new policies to counter global warming. What is the Keystone XL? The Keystone XL pipeline is a proposed 1,179-mile, 1,897 kilometers, pipe that would run from the oil sands in Alberta, Canada, to Steel City, Nebraska, where it could join an existing pipe. It could carry 830,000 barrels of oil each day. The proposed XL pipeline has the same origin and destination as an operational pipe, also called Keystone, granted presidential permit in 2008 by President George W. Bush, but takes a more direct route. The XL pipeline would allow for an increased supply of oil from Canada. A section running south from Cushing in Oklahoma to the Gulf opened in January 2014. At the coast there are additional refineries and ports from which the oil can be exported. The pipeline would be a privately financed project, with the cost of construction shared between TransCanada, an energy company based in Calgary, Alberta, and other oil shippers. U.S.-produced oil, albeit less than Canadian, would also be transported by Keystone XL. Why do the U.S. and Canada want this project? Canada already sends 550,000 barrels of oil per day to the U.S. via the existing Keystone pipeline. The oil fields in Alberta are landlocked, and as they are further developed, require means of access to international markets. Many of North America's oil refineries are based in the Gulf Coast, and industry groups on both sides of the border want to benefit. An increased supply of oil from Canada would mean a decreased dependency on the Middle Eastern market. According to market principles, the more oil in the market, the lower the price for consumers. The infrastructure project would create 42,000 jobs over a 2-year construction period. The U.S. State Department estimates 35 of which would remain after the pipeline is built. Where comes the opposition for project? U.S. State Department said the proposed route contains fragile ecosystem of sandhills and oil spillage may pose serious threats. More energy is required to extract oil from the Alberta oil sands than in traditional drilling. And Environment Canada says it has found industry chemicals seeping into groundwater and the Athabasca River. A group called the Cowboy Indian Alliance marched on the U.S. Capitol earlier this year, citing destruction of local environments. Why did Obama reject it? The president said it would not have lowered petrol prices, created long-term jobs, affected energy dependence. It would not have a significant impact on the U.S. economy, he said. He said the pipeline had taken on an overinflated role in U.S. debate over climate change. 2. Ahead of Diwali, Prime Minister Narendra Modi launches 3 gold schemes. This topic is important under General Studies Paper 2. government policies and interventions for development in various sectors. Why recently in news? Prime Minister Narendra Modi launched 3 gold-related scheme viz Gold Monetization Scheme, GMS, Sovereign Gold Bond Scheme, SGBS, and Indian Gold Coins, IGC. These ambitious schemes were launched to reduce the physical demand for gold and fish out 20,000 tons of the precious metal lying idle with households and institutions. Gold Monetization Scheme, GMS, 2015. GMS 2015 will offer option to resident Indians to deposit their precious metal and earn an interest on it and will replace the existing Gold Deposit Scheme, GDS, 1999. All residents can invest in this scheme but are subjected to Know Your Customer, KYC, scheme. Scheme tagline: Earn while you secure. Implementation. As per Reserve Bank of India, RBI, directives, all scheduled commercial banks, excluding regional rural banks, will implement GMS 2015. Deposit limit. Minimum deposit at any one time of raw gold in the forms of bars, coins, jewelry excluding stones and other metals is 30 grams with 995 fineness. There is no maximum limit for the deposit. Tenure. Banks will accept gold deposits under the short term of bank deposit, STBD, of 1 to 3 years, medium, 5 to 7 years, and long, 12 to 15 years. Principal and interest of the deposit. Banks are free to fix the interest rates and it will be denominated in gold. Sovereign Gold Bond Scheme, SGBS, 2015. Seeks to shift part of physical gold in form of bars and coins for investment into dematerialized, gold bonds in order to reduce the demand for physical gold. These gold bonds are interest-bearing and will be payable in terms of grams of gold. Scheme tagline: Invest wisely. Earn safely. Minimum investment: 2 grams of physical gold. Maximum investment: 500 grams. Issuing bonds. RBI on behalf of Union Government will issue the gold bonds in the denominations of 1 gram and its multiples. Tenure of gold bonds. 8 years is maximum tenure. But there is exit option from 5th year can be exercised on interest payment states. Tradable and exchangeable. These bonds are available in demat and paper form. It can be tradable in stock exchange and can be used as collateral for loans. Indian Gold Coin 2015. It is India's first ever Indian gold coin and bullion to be officially issued by Union Government. The gold coins will bear national emblem Ashok Chakra on one side and Mahatma Gandhi's engraved image on the other side. Denominations. The coins will be available in denominations of 5 and 10 grams and a 20-gram bullion. Available at 125 Metals and Minerals Trading Corporation, MMTC, of India outlets across the country. These coins and bullion are easily liquidated. 3. State's stand will feature in the final notification on Kasturirangan report. This topic is important under General Studies Paper 3. Conservation of Ecology and Biodiversity. Why recently in news? The eco-sensitive zones identified by the state government and regulation on sand extraction and stone quarrying will feature in the final notification of the Union Government. While implementing the Kasturirangan Committee report, Principal Chief Conservator of Forests and Head of Forest Force Vinay Luthra has said. They had considered as eco-sensitive areas not only the wildlife areas but also the eco-sensitive zones in 40 taluks of the state. Recommendations of Kasturirangan Panel. The Kasturirangan Panel had the advantage of using a finer remote sensing technology to make a distinction between the so-called cultural landscape and natural landscape. According to this distinction, 41% of the Western Ghats is natural landscape, having low population impact and rich biodiversity. But the remaining 59% is cultural landscape dominated by human settlements and agricultural fields. Thus, instead of declaring entire Western Ghats as ESA, the panel said that 90% of the natural landscape should be protected. The identification of ESA was based on the fragmentation of the forests, population density of villages and the richness of the biodiversity in villages. This would be around 60,000 km squared ecologically sensitive area spread over 6 states. Thus, it diluted the protection of 137,000 km squared areas as stipulated in the Gadgil report. This implies that according to Kasturirangan Committee, around 37.5% of the total area of the Western Ghats is ecologically sensitive. This committee said that economic options, businesses and livelihood should not be forbade, that is allowed to continue. But answer to protection of the Western Ghats lies in providing better incentives to move businesses or livelihoods towards greener and more sustainable practices. Establish a decision support and monitoring center for geospatial analysis and policy support in the Western Ghats, which will supervise changes and propose state government on policy reform, and all such reports must be in the public domain. High-resolution map, delimiting ecologically sensitive areas, down to each village settlement, must be put in the public domain so that people can be involved in taking decisions about environment. A ban on all polluting industries, including mining, categorized as most hazardous in the Water, Prevention and Control of Pollution Act, 1974, and Air, Prevention and Control of Pollution Act, 1981. The Forest Rights Act, 2006, that recognizes the rights of dwellers on forest resources, will be implemented in letter and spirit, and the consent of Gram Sabha's concerned will be mandatory for any project. Strict regime for hydropower projects. These include cumulative impact assessment of such projects and ensuring minimum water flow in the rivers in the lean season. Set up a body to assess and report on the ecology of the region and to support the implementation of ESA to be set up. The Kasturirangan report recommended ban on mining, quarrying, thermal power plants and highly polluting industries within 60,000 square kilometers of the Ghats. Projects will be allowed only after the approval of the Gram Sabhas concerned. Conclusion. Western Ghats are a victim of neoliberalism, where the level of environmental degradation due to reckless exploitation of natural resources by corporate houses has increased manifold. The Western Ghats are the treasure for us which provides us our day-to-day need. It needs to be protected and regenerated. This Ghats contains enormous wealth of beautiful species and trees. If people have to remain in this world, we need nature and its resources. So it is for our own survival that we have to protect the forests, but forests or natures do not require human beings. So, We should take a pledge not to destroy our environment. 4. Gujarat High Court for Uniform Civil Code. This topic is important under General Studies Paper 2. Provisions under Indian Constitution. Why recently in news? The Gujarat High Court has called for introducing a uniform civil code, while slamming polygamy that is practiced by those who misinterpret the Quran. The court said that polygamy was driven by selfish and personal reasons and was against the constitutional provisions and anti-woman. Polygamy and the unilateral talaq without the wife's consent offend Article 14 and 15. Article 14 of the Constitution provides for equality before the law for all, while Article 15 prescribes non-discrimination on the basis of caste, sex or religion. What is Uniform Civil Code of India? Uniform Civil Code in India is the proposal to replace the personal laws based on the scriptures and customs of each major religious community in the country with a common set governing every citizen. These laws are distinguished from public law and cover marriage, divorce, inheritance, adoption and maintenance. Personal laws were first framed during the British Raj, mainly for Hindu and Muslim citizens. The British feared opposition from community leaders and refrained from further interfering within this domestic sphere. The demand for a uniform civil code was first put forward by women activists in the beginning of the 20th century, with the objective of women's rights, equality and secularism. What is the idea behind a uniform civil code for India? Currently, believers of various religions can marry, adopt, inherit property and divorce under their own customs. Under a uniform civil code, it is believed, personal laws and sanctioned practices of different religions will be largely harmonized with accepted fair practices for all citizens, under guidelines laid down by Constitution. Does the Constitution mention a uniform civil code? Article 44 of the Constitution, which is one of the directive principles of state policy, says, "The state shall endeavor to secure for the citizens a uniform civil code throughout the territory of India." Directive principles are not justiciable or mandatory, only a guideline. What is the debate about? Articles 29 and 30 guarantee minorities the right to conserve their culture and script, and run their own educational institutions. It was understood that minorities could practice their religion and follow their customs and traditions. The Supreme Court asked the central government whether it was willing to bring a uniform civil code to ride over inconsistent personal laws in different religions. There was total confusion over the incoherent stipulations about marriage, divorce, adoption, maintenance and inheritance. Currently, different laws regulate these aspects for adherents of different religions. What does our secular constitution say? Article 25, which guarantees the freedom to practice, profess and propagate any religion. By the 42nd Amendment of 1976, India was declared a secular nation. The understanding of Article 25, the state and its institutions have not interfered with religious practices, including in relation to various personal laws. There is a view that this principle runs contradictory to the idea of secularism, which requires the state to be inert to religious considerations, and not tacitly support them by following a practice of non-interference, no matter what. Clause 2. of Article 25 empowers the state to frame any law to regulate or restrict secular activity which may be associated with religious practice. Therefore, it is argued, Article 25 is no bar to having a uniform civil code. The inconsistency in personal laws has been challenged on the touchstone of Article 14, which ensures the right to equality. So, do we really want a uniform civil code? Is there a way forward? Every aspect of the personal laws must be examined in the light of constitutional guarantees to every Indian: equality, justice, right to life. 5. In India, unemployment rate still high. This topic is important under General Studies Paper 1. Social Problems in India. An analysis of the official census 2011 data by The Hindu has yielded the following information on unemployment in India. Of the 116 million Indians who were either seeking or available for work, 32 million were illiterate and 84 literate. 10 million Indians with graduate, postgraduate and technical degrees were looking for work as of 2011. That is, around 15% of all Indians with the highest levels of education were seeking job as of 2011. Among literates, unemployment rates were higher among the better qualified, highest of all among the 7.2 million people with a technical diploma or certificate other than a degree. At all levels of education, unemployment rates were higher in rural than in urban areas. At every level of education, especially at the higher levels, female unemployment exceeded male unemployment. Overall, India's unemployment rate grew from 6.8% in 2001 to 9.6% in 2011. Unemployment grew faster for illiterates than for literates. As of 2011, Kerala had India's highest graduate unemployment rate at over 30%. 6. Now, 0.5% cess on services to support Swachh Bharat. This topic is important under General Studies Paper 2. Government policies and interventions for development in various sectors and issues arising out of their design and implementation. The Union government has decided to impose two new levies. 0.5% Swachh Bharat cess on all services, now liable to service tax. 2% regional connectivity cess on international air travel and flights between metros and big cities. The Swachh Bharat cess will be effective from November 15 and regional connectivity cess will be effective from New Year. The proceeds from Swachh Bharat cess will be used for Swachh Bharat initiatives. A provision for levying a Swachh Bharat cess on all or any of the services for the purpose of financing and promoting Swachh Bharat initiatives was made in the Union Budget for 2015-16 by the Finance Minister Arun Jaitley. The government estimates that with the increased allocation for Swachh Bharat Abhiyan, consequent to the collections from the cess, it will be able to prevent diseases. At present, an estimated Rs 6,700 crore, or about Rs 60 per capita, is spent annually on health. According to the government, Swachh Bharat cess is not another tax but a step towards involving each and every citizen in making contribution to Swachh Bharat. 7. Trans-Pacific Trade Pact text triggers fresh debate in US. This topic is important under General Studies Paper 2. Bilateral, regional and global groupings and agreements involving India and or affecting India's interests. Why recently in news? The recent release of the text of the Trans-Pacific Partnership (TPP) trade agreement in the US has triggered a fresh round of domestic debate on how it would impact the country. Now, getting congressional approval for the pact has become a challenge for Barack Obama. According to President Obama, the TPP is the highest standard trade agreement in history. It eliminates 18,000 taxes that various countries put on American goods and will boost Made in America exports abroad while supporting higher-paying jobs right here at home. About the Trans-Pacific Partnership. The Trans-Pacific Partnership is headed by the US and includes Australia, Brunei, Canada, Chile, Japan, Malaysia, Mexico, New Zealand, Peru, Singapore, and Vietnam. The agreement covers 40% of the world's economy. It would set new terms for trade and business investment among the United States and 11 other Pacific Rim nations. It would phase out thousands of import tariffs as well as other barriers to international trade. It also would establish uniform rules on corporations' intellectual property, open the internet even in communist Vietnam, and crack down on wildlife trafficking and environmental abuses. Where comes the opposition for this pact? Many US citizens and dozens of lawmakers are skeptical about the new pact. This pact, according to some, is just for CEOs of big companies. Opponents see the pact as mostly a giveaway to business, encouraging further export of manufacturing jobs to low-wage nations, while limiting competition and encouraging higher prices for pharmaceuticals and other high-value products by spreading American standards for patent protections to other countries. A provision allowing multinational corporations to challenge regulations and court rulings before special tribunals is also drawing intense opposition. 8. The first meeting of Kayakalp, the Innovative Council of Indian Railways held. This topic is important under General Studies Paper 3. Infrastructural Facilities and Safety in Railways. Why recently in news? In its fourth meeting held recently, under the chairmanship of Ratan Tata, Kayakalp, Innovation Council of Indian Railways, discussed safety issues and attempted to identify the causes for accidents on account of manual failures. The Council looked at approaches towards achieving greater hygiene and cleanliness on railway facilities such as stations. The Council also examined customer focus of the Indian Railways at present and ways to make the organization more customer-friendly. All members also agreed on Railways' need to address customer needs in a more visible and effective manner. Kayakalp. It is an innovation council which was set up for the purpose of business re-engineering and introducing a spirit of innovation in railways. The purpose of the council is to recommend innovative methods and processes for the improvement, betterment and transformation of the Indian railways. This council would be a standing body and would interact with all stakeholders and other interested parties.